Good evening. It is Monday, November the 20th, 2023. This is the City of Lebanon Plan Commission meeting. We will call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Kelly, you call the roll?
Okay, Corey Coombs.
Here.
Diane Scott, absent. Dan Bayshore.
Here.
Kevin Krulik.
Here.
Brian Tandy.
Here.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Heather Schaller.
Here.
Rebecca Stanton.
Here.
Lori Gross.
Here.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those nay. Okay, minutes are approved. First order here is to approve the 2024 meeting dates. I assume you guys have all had a chance to review them. Note the first two meetings next year in January, February will be Tuesdays due to holidays. Motion to approve those.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay. I don't see any old business. If no one else has anything, we'll move on to new business. Ben?
All right, we'll start, and just to note, in case anyone's here tonight for these items, docket 23-82, Preston Hillgas requesting voluntary annexation of the corporate city limits of Lebanon for .81 acre property located at 510 North 300 West. That item is going to be continued to the December meeting. And the same for docket 2383, U.S. Cold Storage requesting development plan approval for a 223,000 square foot expansion at 415 South Mount Zion Road. That one will also be continued to the December meeting. So the first item on our agenda for tonight, and actually there are about 6 annexations related to the LEAP district. So what I will do, again, similar to what we did a couple months ago, this is a very similar process here tonight. These are all holes that we're filling in that you'll see here in a second as I get into my presentation. So I will give one overall presentation for all 6 of these, and then we'll just kind of run through each one of them individually so we can open the public hearing and then get a recommendation from the Plan Commission. So I will start off here if they want to go ahead and pull the screen up. Hopefully I got this hooked up correctly. All right, so this is phases 19 through 24 that we're on here. It's a total of 8 parcels and a little over 37 acres. And so again, just like all the others, these are all 100% voluntary annexations and all meet contiguity requirements by law. So I will just quickly go through and highlight where these parcels are located. So we'll start here, and this kind of gives you an idea overall. Again, you can kind of see we're just filling in a few of the holes, primarily on the northern part of the LEAP district, and then one out on State Road 32 to the west. So we'll start actually with phase 20, which is docket number 23-84, and we're doing this a little bit out of order in terms of phase 19. I'll do last, and you'll understand why when I get to them. Phase 20, as you see here, is a single parcel. It's 1.67 acres. It is located on 150 West, just a little bit north of 300 North, and is contiguous on 4 sides of the property. So it does meet the contiguity requirements. And you can see there, it's about 1.67 acres on North 150 West, about 400 feet north of West 300 North. And then we'll move on. Phase 21, which you see right in the middle of the screen now, it's docket number 23-85. It again is a single parcel. It is 5 acres. And this actually is, I believe it's just located west of 150 West, and it's just south of 300 North. This is actually not a parcel that's on a street, so it's just generally located southwest of the intersection of West 300 North and North 150 West. So it is a landlocked parcel that's west of 150. Again, contiguous on all 4 sides of the property. All right. Phase 22, docket number 23-86, is the 3 parcels in yellow that you see here. These parcels are generally located on the west side of North 150 West, and then approximately 1,600 feet south of West 300 North that you kind of see located there. Actually just west of the curve and 375 North as it comes around the curve and becomes 150 West. Phase 23, docket number 23-87 is again a single parcel. It's 0.46 acres. It's actually located on just west of the interstate. It is on the east side of US 52, just south of the intersection of West 250 North. And so it's a tiny little parcel you see there. Actually, the red line's a little bit long. It's a little purple parcel that you kind of see there just on the south side of the road there. Phase 24. Docket number 23-88, again, is a single parcel, 6.24 acres. It is located on the north side of State Road 32, about 2,700 feet west of North 325 West. The address of this parcel is 3760 West State Road 32. Again, as you can see, everything all the way around it has been annexed to the city already, so this is just a hole that's getting filled in here and is contiguous on all sides of the property. And finally, Phase 19, docket 23-89. This is actually at the north end of the Eli Lilly property, on the north side of, it's actually the northeast corner of West 450 North and North 150 West. The address of this parcel is 1460 West 450 North. It's a 1.53 acre parcel. And the reason this one is, I guess it's out of order, actually probably how it was filed, but this is a parcel that's actually outside of the concept plan area for the LEAP district. So whereas all of, and I'll summarize these here in a second, this one, because it's outside of the concept planning area for the LEAP district, we've actually recommended this one for the SF zoning district. We did have a parcel that was like that in the last round of annexations, because we're actually while we're adjacent to the LEAP district, it's not in the concept planning that was done for the LEAP district, so we recommended SF. So going back through, just to summarize here, docket 23-84, which is Project LEAP Phase 20, 2385, Project LEAP Phase 21, docket 2386, which is Phase 22, 2387, Project LEAP Phase 23, and then 2388, which is LEAP Phase 24. Each of those we have recommended that the Plan Commission forward this to the Common Council with a recommendation for the LEAP Lebanon PUD zoning district, zoning classification for these annexed territories, per the concept planning that has been done previously and the master plan that we've done previously and the comprehensive plan for the LEAP zoning district and the LEAP development area. So we have recommended that LEAP Lebanon PUD district zoning classification for those 5 annexations. And the final one that you see here is, which is Phase 19, docket number 2389. Again, as I mentioned, this is outside of the concept planning area for the LEAP, and so we have recommended that the Plan Commission forward this to the Common Council with a recommendation of the SF, single-family residential zoning classification. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions, and I'll turn it over to the petitioners.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? About these? Have the applicant care to step forward? Talk for a few minutes?
Seconds.
Seconds.
Okay. Hi, my name is Olivia Rangaswamy, and I am outside counsel for the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. On the screen is the concept plan for the LEAP district. This is the same version that you all saw in the last round of annexation. This includes parcels that the IEDC currently owns, has under contract, and does not have under contract and may not have under contract. That said, the IEDC controls the majority of these parcels. The IEDC has approximately 6,700 acres that have been zoned for the planned unit development currently. And an additional 600 acres have been zoned general industrial use on the northeast end for the Eli Lilly development. Today, we are proposing to add approximately 36 acres to the planned unit development, and that's comprised of the annexation phases 20 through 24, as Ben mentioned. With respect to the Phase 19 annexation, which is the parcel immediately north of the Eli Lilly development. This parcel was intentionally excluded from the concept plan, as this parcel was purchased to facilitate the road expansion and improvement of Northwit Road and West County Road 450 North. And we don't anticipate this parcel to be incorporated into the LEAP district, and believe that default zoning is appropriate for this parcel. The remaining annexation areas, phases 20 through 24, are gap fillers in the LEAP district, and we respectfully request these annexation areas be included in the PUD. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just procedurally here, we will have to open a public hearing for each one of the docket numbers. So if we just want to, Mr. Tandy, just run through and identify the docket number, and then I can go back to the presentation and pull it back up on the screen so they know which one we're referring to. We can open those public hearings for each one and then have a recommendation for each one.
So we're going to do public hearing, recommendation, then we'll move to the next public hearing.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go to top of the list here, docket 23-84. That's LEAP Phase 2. We'll open up a public hearing for that phase. Close that public hearing, not seeing anybody step forward. I would entertain a motion for a recommendation to the council.
I make a motion to recommend the LEAP Lebanon PUD district zoning classification for the proposed annexation territory to the common council.
I'll second.
Okay, first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Recommendation carries. We'll go to docket 23-85, that is phase 21. We'll open the public hearing for that phase. Close the public hearing for that phase. I would entertain a motion, a recommendation for that phase.
I move we forward 23-85 to the Common Council with a recommendation of the LEAP PUD district.
Okay, first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, we will move to docket 23-86, that is phase 22. We'll open the public hearing for phase 22. Close the public hearing for phase 22. Look for recommendation for that. Docket 23-86.
I make a motion to recommend the LEAP Lebanon PUD district zoning classification for the proposed annexation territory to the common council.
Second.
Got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, recommendation carries. Docket 23-87, that is phase 23. We'll open the public hearing. Close the public hearing for phase 23. Look for recommendation.
Move we forward with a favorable recommendation of Lebanon PUD district on docket 23-87.
I'll second.
Okay, got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, carries. And the last, not the last one here, last for the LEAP, 23-88, phase 24. We'll open a public hearing for those 6 acres. Close the public hearing for phase 24. Look for recommendation.
Make a motion to recommend the LEAP Lebanon PUD district zoning classification for the proposed annexation territory to the common council.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All
Aye.
those opposed, say nay. Okay, well, carries. We'll go to 23-89. That is phase 19. Look for recommendation for that phase.
We got to open the public
We're
hearing.
going to open public hearing. I'm sorry, I got excited there. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and now we'll do a recommendation for 23-89.
Move we recommend to the Common Council the single-family zoning district for docket number 23-89.
Second.
Okay, I got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Recommendation carries. Thank you, Ben. Okay, last business here, there would be a presentation on the update for the City of Lebanon Unified Development Ordinance. Ben?
All right. We have been working diligently to update our Unified Development Ordinance over the last year or so, really looking through the details and where we can make things more efficient, more development friendly, also creating standards that we feel are going to get unique and quality developments, and just making sure to clean things up so we maybe have less variances that come to the Board of Zoning Appeals for things that we see all the time, and then making things easier on the code enforcement side of things as well. So what we wanted to do tonight is just let our consultants give you a presentation and hit the high points, changes to the UDO, some of the key things that we want to make sure you guys are aware of. I know it's a long document. I'm sure you read every page and every word of it, but we want to hit some of the highlights for you here tonight. and then let you ask some questions if you have any initial reactions tonight. And then what we intend to do is over the course of the next month, we're going to post it online, let people look at it, see if anybody has any questions, any comments. Hopefully get those all incorporated. The intention would be to come back to you guys at the December meeting to present the final UDO and final zoning map, because we'll have to update the zoning map as well that we're still working on. Present those items to you at your December meeting for a recommendation to forward that to the council as well. So with that, let me pull up the presentation and I will turn it over to our wonderful consultants who will walk you through the presentation and give you some of the high points of what we've been working on.
Good evening. I'm Brian Stumpf with Civic Blueprint, one of the members of the consultant team. Also with us are Rachel Christensen with HWC Engineering and Laney Stumpf with Civic Blueprint. And so, let's see. Oh, we just got, excellent. The UDO is, we've been working on for, it's been mentioned quite a while, and it's been a great process. Can we full screen this, Ben? Hang on. Okay. This is fine. Sorry. So one of the questions always is, well, why are we updating the UDO? We've got a current unified development ordinance. It's operating, it's working, but first of all, is to align with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan was updated recently, and we began our work on the UDO shortly after its adoption. The other part is the city of Lebanon is growing, and that's quite the understatement. We were chuckling the other day when we met. LEAP wasn't even in anybody's mind when we began the process of the UDO and updating it. And it became very clear that the existing UDO is just insufficient to handle these changes. Along with that, we're trying to address the ordinance, making sure that it's friendly and easy to use for everyone. One of the things we pride ourselves on is you will not find the word shall. We try and pull out all the planning jargon, all the legalese. We like it to be in plain English. So just to touch on some of the highlights, is part of that simplification was simplifying the zoning districts. So where we had different residential districts with different labels on the front, we've simplified those to a scale from R1 to R6. And what happens in those districts, the intensity of those districts, and the density goes up as you go through those districts. The commercial districts, neighborhood business remains neighborhood business. The planned commercial and planned business overlay become just general business. And then we've simplified the industrial districts just into light and general industrial. Institutional remains the same. Our central business district becomes a downtown district. LEAP is a new district in the ordinance. So the LEAP ordinance, PUD that you adopted, is now Chapter 4 of the UDO. So all that information is just straight into this ordinance as Chapter 4. And then we still have planned unit developments. Our goal with planned unit developments and the changes we've made in the ordinance is that when you get requests for development, they're coming in with a base zoning district. PUDs are still allowed, but we're trying to discourage them, keep them for either major projects that are character building for the community, or sites that are really odd, or things that we don't normally see. For example, somebody wants to come in and do a tiny home community. Guess what? They're a great candidate for a PUD. One of the big changes, one of the differences, one of the shifts we've made in the ordinance, that's probably the best way to say it, is that we've shifted on the residential districts from regulating by lot size to regulating by density. What we were seeing and looking at the requests that were coming before the city were that PUDs were being used for a couple of reasons. One is to have that variety in product. The other is to address some of the architectural standards, have a little bit of flexibility there. We've also integrated flexibility in the zoning districts. I'll touch upon that here in a minute. The other thing is where currently the UDO is very siloed between your single-family districts, then you get into multifamily and so forth. We have broadened that, the different types of housing to help encourage that diversity that you're seeing in communities and that you want to see in communities. Our goal is to reduce the number of PUDs. Now, you'll still get rezones coming before you, but as I mentioned, we want those to be the base zoning district that you have. And the goal is that the city is in control. The reason we want that is, as Ben can attest, and when it's a PUD and everything is approved as a PUD, it's hard to give a simple answer to someone. Someone calls in, hey, what's my setback? I don't know, I have to look it up. And when it's a base zoning district, that's just easier to administer. So why regulate by density? Right now, we regulate by minimum lot size. Here in your R2, it's 9,000 square feet, and that's what all the lots have to be, at least that size. What we're looking at doing is identifying a certain number of homes per acre. It's a top line in that zoning district. That's how many homes you could potentially have, and then we've relaxed the minimum lot size to provide that flexibility. In application, what that does, here's an example of a 10-acre site. In the middle, you see a layout using the minimum lot size. They're going to try and get as many homes in there as they can. That's just how things are. And what ends up happening is you end up, because of the lot size requirements, you end up losing some of the trees or some of the other features on the property. On the right, you see using a maximum density, as we're proposing, and providing that flexibility in lot size. The homes can be arranged in different locations on the site. You can protect some of the natural features and really help keep the character of the community. You can still do what's in the middle. Somebody wants to, the new UDO does not preclude what's happening in the middle, but it does provide that flexibility to keep those elements that provide character on the site. And how does this play out in reality? So here are some aerials. On the left, you see a typical residential neighborhood that was minimum lot size, and you see the sort of sameness that exists throughout the entire community. Where on the right, because of the flexibility in the standards, you have different sizes of lots, which allows more open space and trails and other amenities in the community. Another example here on the left, because the lots are taking up more area of the property, you tend to get the minimum amount of open space, whatever your ordinance is requiring. We still have minimum open space requirements in the ordinance, but what often happens is, as you see on the left, it's the ponds and a little bit of some leftover property, where on the right, when we provide that flexibility for lot size, you have the ability to put the existing trees in open space and save some of those elements that provide character. The residential districts, the development standards we've been talking about also work hand in hand with the uses. So before, where we tended to be single family and then big apartment complexes and not much in between, we're really detailed on the different types of residential. So we've broken out single family, duplex, bungalow courts, townhomes, small apartments that you may get like on an infill site, and then larger apartment buildings. And you can see, as you go through the zoning districts, these uses begin to sort of phase in to the different districts. And then we've made some of them conditional uses. So example, in the R2, a duplex would be a conditional use. So it may fit, depending how it's done, and therefore we go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for that conditional use approval. So this will help with that, some of the diversity that you were seeing, or why you were seeing PUDs being promoted or used. This is a screenshot out of the development standards for the residential districts. And you'll see at that very top line, the maximum density. So in the R1, it's 1.75 homes per acre. And then that goes all the way up to 22 units an acre in the R6. The R6 is your multifamily where you'd see apartment complexes and things. But we've also broken this down. You'll see on the left, single family detached, two family, and so forth. So they have their development standards in there. The other thing that we've done is that, say, for example, for the duplexes, the two-family homes, we've adjusted the lots so that building, the property line can go through the duplex, so that each side of the duplex can be owner-occupied, where right now, at least one side is going to be a rental, because it's one duplex on a lot. So those are some of the things that we've done to help encourage ownership. We have adjusted the architectural standards. Still have strong standards for architectural diversity along the streetscapes. So we have to have different facades, different color palettes, things of that nature. Instead of having a pick list or saying you have to have X amount of brick, and then sometimes it doesn't work with the design, you're starting to put brick where it doesn't belong, things of that nature, we're really focusing on building articulation. It's been summarized, no beige boxes. And so there's got to be articulation on the sides of the building. And then looking for variety. Each of the elevations have to have at least 3 different colors, materials, and textures. And so you can have it's through those mix of materials or colors that you're getting that architectural variety and moving away from that sameness. Also on corner lots, lots that have higher visibility, the side facade has to carry that, the architectural style from the front of the house around to the side. A couple other noteworthy items. We know that Lebanon is facing a lot of new development. It's also going to be facing redevelopment of areas, different lots that come in. So we have design review standards for downtown and for infill lots, so that way what's being proposed, you've got a yardstick and some principles to then evaluate, does that fit with the site? We're not looking for sameness, but we are looking for, it looks at the massing of the buildings and elements of that nature so that it doesn't look like it just kind of fell out of the sky with no consideration of the context in which the site is located. We've also added property maintenance standards. That's something that isn't usually in a zoning ordinance or UDO, but it's one of the things that, as we work with communities, has become very handy to have in here. And that combined with the third bullet point of enhanced enforcement, it's a simple way to be able to stay on top of any violations. So the enhanced enforcement, we've added a ticketing process, which is very helpful because when we started the process, there was essentially the option you had was to sue the person that had the violation. And that's a long and expensive process. And with the ticketing process, I've been on Ben's side of the table before in communities that have that. Send them a nice warning letter, and then all of a sudden they get a ticket with a little bit of a fine, and guess what? That really it gets their attention. It's an easy way to get violations resolved. And also with the city court coming in, we have that as the enforcement mechanism where in the past, the court system was, I understand, very difficult to get zoning cases heard. So those are the high-level items of the UDO. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
I do have a question.
Yes.
On the ticketing, is that going to be something, if they don't pay, does it become a lien on the house?
Yes,
Okay.
and there are a variety in that enforcement process, there are a variety of different measures. Ticketing is just one way to essentially get their attention. Ultimately, yes, it will go to a lien, and that doesn't preclude other enforcement measures.
Okay.
I have a question about the parking. Are we can try to keep them from parking on both sides of the street?
That's really up to, so that'll be based off of your design guidelines for streets.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If
So
we're going to do that, they got to make the street wider.
And so your city construction standards is what will
Right.
dictate that.
Yeah, just to touch on that a little more, and Kevin can fill in if I miss anything, but yeah, our construction standards for street widths, the width varies depending on whether you want to do no parking, parking on one side, or parking on both sides. So the ordinance references those city standards, the UDO references those city standards, so we make sure that those standards are such that you have room for cars and also the safe passage of public safety vehicles. They always want 20-foot clear, so we have to make sure that street's wide enough for parking and to still allow that safe passage of the public safety vehicles. So yeah, those are already in our construction standards, and we just reference those in the UDO.
And then I guess are we, when we're on the setbacks, we've talked about that before. Cars, because people don't use their garage for a car garage, they use it for junk.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have a chart in here that shows the setbacks, but we do have, it's either 20 or 25 feet, depending on the zoning district as a minimum. But we can always discuss with applicants what setback is most appropriate based on what the design of the neighborhood is. So yeah, if we're in a neighborhood where we need to make sure that there are at least 2 cars can park on the driveway without blocking the sidewalk, we'll just,
As long as
that's
they
part of the
don't-
design process with that applicant.
Unfortunately, that's not always the truth today, because they're on the sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we need to make sure we take care of that.
Yep, we got much easier enforcement methods in here too, that's a big thing.
I'll just piggyback on that real quick. So in the residential districts, we actually have setbacks for garage doors that are facing the street. So as Ben mentioned, they are anywhere from 30 feet to 20 feet. And so that garage setback is actually set back further than the house, so that, to make sure that we have at least 20 feet before the door. The other part is we still allow the house to go ahead, so by having a design standard where the garage is encouraged to be behind the front facade of the house, it helps with the streetscape. design of the community.
One question on non-related occupants or occupancy. I know that was contemplated previously by zoning, right?
Yeah, those definitions are still similar.
Okay.
In terms of what is considered a single-family unit.
Okay.
And that's been legislated for decades in the courts, so that's what, I think everybody's ordinance is the same when it comes to that item. And I know we kind of went through it pretty quick. I don't know if they can pull the chart back up here again on the screen. I wanted to kind of walk through this again so you understand. So the way this is written, there is not a minimum lot size standards. So what would happen, I'll use the easy math here because R2 is a three units per acre. So if you've got a 100-acre piece of property and it's zoned R2, that means they could have up to 300 units on that property. They could do a bunch of very small lots and then have a whole lot of open space, or they could do larger lots and fill out the property. And the same thing here, you can also see there could also be some duplexes in that neighborhood. There will always only be no more than 300 units on that property. So we've allowed some design flexibility here, whereas if it was zoned R2 before, but they wanted to do single-family duplexes and you work with the densities and lot sizes, they had to automatically come in as a PUD, which means that we've now got 12 PUDs that we've got to track. What this does is it allows for a similar design process as a PUD, except for it's just our base standard zoning district, allows a flexibility on the types of residential product, and then also lot sizes just underneath the cap of the number of units. So it kind of achieves the same thing, but allows more design flexibility in trying to achieve that. So if somebody wanted to come in and do a large lot development, they still can. But they could do some large lots, they could do some small lots, they could do some duplexes, and we just know that in each one of those, the cap is based on that unit per acre calculation. So it's a little bit different. I know there's a number of communities that are kind of going towards a zoning ordinance like this to try to minimize the number of PUDs that come in that you're having to track. Again, like Brian said, every time somebody calls and said, hey, I want to know what my side setback is, we've got to go look up the PUD ordinance for that neighborhood and find it, because it might be different than another residential neighborhood. So what this allows us to do is say, hey, this is zone R2, your side setback is X.
Ben, just for clarity on the duplexes, is that one unit or is that 2 units?
A duplex structure is 2
calculation.
units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any contemplation given to non-garage new home construction?
I think once you get into the more, maybe Brian can touch on this too, once you get into some of maybe that's what I would look at. So when you get further down into like bungalow court and townhouses and small apartments, that's when you're starting to get into units that may or may not have a garage to them.
One of the items that had come to our attention was a developer possibly looking at a non-garage unit
Right.
to bring in entry-level housing, so from a cost perspective, but I believe our UDO would prohibit that.
Right now,
currently.
you're required to have a 2-car attached garage for any single-family home. But yeah, that's definitely something that we're looking at, particularly when you're looking at infill sites that are a little bit more challenging. You're trying to get higher densities in there. You're finding a way to solve the parking requirement in maybe a more unique way.
Okay, cool.
Questions?
One other thing that also has been a hot topic recently that we did discuss in here is the idea of short-term rentals. So that we do not have restrictions on short-term rentals, but they are required to register on an annual basis if they are going to use the residential unit as a short-term rental. And then they also have to meet a series of standards about posting information and things like that. So look for that when you're looking through that as well in the short-term rentals, because there are some standards in there related to that that I know.
So this is for not just new construction, this is going to be.
Across the board, that'd be across the
Got it.
board. Yep.
Okay.
And I guess what do you classify short-term?
I'm trying to remember,
Less than 30 days.
anything less than 30 days. I'm trying to remember what the definition was.
How does that stop these parties that they're renting out then?
How does it, I'm sorry, I didn't
How
catch
they
that.
rent the parties, 200 or 300 people show up at a house and you're seeing those.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that could be stopped, but yeah, if it's a short-term rental for anything, it has to be registered with the city.
And the city has the right to short turn that way based on what they're gonna use?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to register and indicate what it's being used for. If somebody was just using it strictly for a party or use like that, that's no longer a residential use, so it's likely not gonna be permitted. That becomes more of a commercial operation.
Have we considered stronger, say here, regulation of rentals in general?
And we got to be pretty careful of that when you talk about Fair Housing Acts and things like that. So it's a little bit challenging. I know some other communities are talking about it. I know, Brian, based on what you've seen, but yeah, you got to be really careful about trying to restrict the number of rental units based on Fair Housing Act laws and things like that.
I think it's
Not really
more-
restricting, but regulating the property maintenance of them.
Oh, we have property maintenance regulations that are across the board, whether it's owner occupied or rental occupied. Brian touched on that pretty quickly, but in addition to just, mowing the grass and weeds and other rank vegetation, we also put in standards to make sure that like shrubs aren't overgrown and are covering the house and things like that. So we made sure to strengthen just general property maintenance standards, and that would be across the board throughout the city.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I've visited through Heart of Lebanon, minimum maintenance standards have become popular kind of across the country of different ways to make sure that all of the properties are maintained properly, but especially you find the rentals in some commercial properties, so. Good deal.
Any other questions for tonight?
That's from anybody else?
So we will post this to our website and make sure we get it out on social media, that it'd be there in case anybody other than Plan Commission members want to take a look at that. And we'll also make sure to encourage the council to take a look at that before it gets passed along from the Plan Commission. But again, as I mentioned early on, the goal here would be to take any comments you have or questions over the next 30 days, so we can incorporate those that we feel like should be incorporated. And then the intention would be to come back to you at your December meeting, make an additional presentation, particularly if there were any changes that were made, and then ask for your recommendation at that point. We'll also have the zoning map finalized by that time, so you can review that, because we will have to make a number of changes to that. In some cases, we may actually be looking to change the zoning from what it is now, where it's allowing some uses that we're not comfortable with and changing to a more appropriate residential zoning district or something like that. We'll present that to you as well, hopefully get that out to you before the next meeting as well, so you have a chance to kind of pick through that also. But looking for your recommendation at the December meeting and then sending it on to the council in January.
And this would address certain prohibited uses potentially too, or moratoriums on certain things
Yes, we have
potentially?
definitely, we didn't touch on that at all, but yeah, we have looked at how to handle things like fueling stations that we've talked about, that we placed a moratorium on them for now. And actually, maybe Brian, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but we're looking to try to allow clusters of fueling stations, but then only a certain amount are allowed in that cluster, and then clusters have to be a certain distance apart, certain distance from residential uses, and looking at other design standards to attach to them also, so.
Sounds like a totally different type of cluster.
Yep.
We'll go there. Any other questions or comments about the UDO presentation?
And do we have somewhere set in there that, this is up for the UDO maybe get reviewed every 3 to 5 years?
It doesn't necessarily say that, but it's going to be reviewed probably on a weekly basis to start out with. When we discover things like, oh shoot, we probably shouldn't have said it that way, we're going to need to change it and just kind of keep track of those things. But yeah, this is something that we're going to be monitoring on a regular basis. We do that already. We probably have an amendment probably about once every 3 to 6 months already anyway as things come up. But certainly, we have looked at this long and hard to make sure we address everything, and I can guarantee you we missed something. So I'm sure in probably the next 6 months, you'll probably see us come back with a text amendment where we're correcting some things that we missed before it was adopted, so. But yes, to that question, Dan, we will absolutely be monitoring this, and if we discover things that need to be addressed, we'll make sure to address them. If we discover things aren't working the way we intend them to, we'll make sure to change them.
Thank you guys for the work.
Appreciate it, very thorough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can read. Any other business we'd like to discuss tonight? Okay, you'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next meeting will be Monday, December the 18th. We'll see you then. We're adjourned.